Welcome to the Student Affairs One Thing, a podcast that asks a simple question of seasoned student affairs professionals. What is one thing you have learned that has helped shape your professional career? I'm your host, Stuart Brown, the founder of studentaffairs.com, one of the most accessed websites by student affairs professionals. On our pages, we have the most cost-effective job posting board, listing hundreds of open student services positions, a wide range of webinars, and a virtual exhibit hall. We would like to thank our sponsor, the National Society of Leadership and Success, the largest leadership honor society in the nation, providing an accredited 5-step leadership development program for members to build their leadership skills. With chapters at over 700 colleges across the country, the NSLS delivers guaranteed student engagement, increased student retention, and is financially self-sustainable. Learn more at nsls.org/our-program. On today's episode, I am very pleased to have Dr. Leon McClinton, Director of Housing and Residential Life at Oklahoma State University. Dr. McClinton is also a Vice President for the Association of College and University Housing Officers International. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Stuart, for having me. I'm very honored and excited to talk to you about my one thing.
So, Leon, what is your one thing?
Well, my one thing, Stuart, is that as I reflect on my career, I feel as if I've never worked a day in my life. And the reason I say that is I truly enjoy working with students. I love to see students develop and grow while they're in college. I love for them to attain leadership positions and develop those skills and prepare themselves for life after college. And, as I think about why I'm so passionate with that, I think about my time as an undergraduate student. Yes, I have 3 degrees. I have my doctorate of philosophy and education leadership from Clemson University. All 3 of my degrees are from Clemson. But I started out not doing so well, actually to the point where I was academically suspended after my first year. Made a 1.0 the first semester, 1.6 the second semester. And I did well in high school. Had two parents that were teachers. So understood the importance of education, and started out college being very shy, very timid, thought the environment was too large for me, and just got kind of lost in the crowd. Thankfully, I had parents that were able to get me back in my second year. During that summer after my first year, I took a lot of classes where I could make A's to get my GPA up. First and second year in college, I lived with the RA. And the RA during my second year says, Leon, you're always here. You're engaging with my residents. Why don't you consider being an RA? And I said, you know what? I think I would love to do that. And I asked, well, how do you become an RA? He says, you have to interview to be an RA. And at that time in my life and where I was developmentally, I thought that was the absolutely most terrifying thing any student could go through. And decided I'm not going to interview for any type of student leadership role. So I come back my junior year, and the graduate student overseeing the RAs just stopped by my apartment and says, your roommate, the RA, isn't coming back. Would you be interested in the job? And I said, absolutely. And he said, well, I have to make a few phone calls and I'll be back. I'll be back in touch with you in a few days. He came back with the staff t-shirt and said, Leon, you can have this staff t-shirt if you accept the job. And I felt like I was the happiest guy on the planet when I got that job. I remember my first weekend on duty, and there was a party down the hill from my apartment. And I got a call that there's a large group of students. You need to go deal with it. I put on my name tag, got my clipboard, and got an incident report form. And I felt like I was the most important person on that campus at that moment. But I tell that story because at that moment, I felt like I had a sense of belonging at the university. And when I see students that may struggle or that may have some of those similar challenges as they start their collegiate life, I really want to try to help them overcome those obstacles and find ways to help them be comfortable, find their place within their residential setting, love working in housing. As I shared with so many parents during new student orientation sessions, is that some students don't want to go too far from where they live in order to get involved. And we have so many ways within our residential communities for students to get involved. We have a residence hall association. We have front desk positions that are available. But there's so many stories. I know we don't have a lot of time, Stuart, but I can think of some stories where I've seen students flourish. I've had a student worker years ago that worked in our office, and she was very quiet, but I know she observed me through the years as I came to work. And 15, 20 years later, she is very established in our field, even has a higher position in housing than I do. And so, I've been fortunate to be recognized and receive many accolades, such as also serving in a leadership role in ACUHO-I right now. But there's nothing more rewarding to me than seeing a student or a former student be successful, and realizing when that student started out in college, maybe was a little bit uncomfortable or a little bit shy, but now has turned into a tremendous leader.
I think all of us in the field have had a lot of stories like that, or where we see students with potential, and some of these students just come out of the woodwork. So it's not necessarily those students that maybe self-identify from day one. It's those students that come to you or you see them and you just give them that chance, and all of a sudden they are Mr. or Mrs. Student Leader, and they're doing this, they're doing that. And it just took an interest by a senior student affairs person, even down to, like you said, the RA. I mean, that RA recognized something in you and is giving you that nudge.
Stuart, you're right on it. I think I have another quick example that supports or illustrates what you just said. This one's pretty recent. About a few years ago, went to a basketball game, and I was with our students that were involved in the Residence Hall Association. And there was a first-year student, male student, that I tried to strike up a conversation with. And that student just was not willing to talk to me, just extremely timid, kept his distance from me. And so this past fall semester, this particular student that I'm talking about now is the RHA president. So has grown 3 years later, leading this association. And then he heard that I wanted to have a podcast. Due to the pandemic, we weren't going to have a lot of student face-to-face interactions. So I wanted to have a podcast and interview a student every other week throughout the fall semester. And he sought me out and asked me, could I co-host this podcast with you? And so as we did these interviews, every other week, it was almost like I didn't need to be there. I mean, he was so vocal, very comfortable, just a natural. So again, just so rewarding to see this student grow during his time here.
So I guess what I'm looking at is that one thing for people that are listening, whether they're even undergrads, grads, and new professionals on up, is really to realize that you do have an impact. And it might not be an impact that you see right away, but it might take a semester, a couple of years, or like that example you gave, 20 years later, that former student is not your boss, but she's up there in the ranks. And that's something that we don't always know about, but something that we should be reaching out to these students, because like I said before, they might just need that one little bit of interest to spark their career, maybe.
Absolutely. And as I, again, reflect on my career, I feel like, when I talk to people that are interested in pursuing a career in student affairs, make sure that you truly care about students. If you care about students and want to help them be successful, then you'll be like me and feel like, I'm really not working. I feel like I'm not working at this. This is a lot of fun, and I'm just giving back.
Leon, thank you so much for sharing your one thing. I think this is something that people can take away and really sort of ingrained in their professional career, to be not necessarily looking out for people, but to be aware that we have the impact on these undergraduates. I want to thank Dr. Leon McClinton, Director of Housing and Residential Life at Oklahoma State University, also Vice President at the Association of College and University Housing Officers International. You have been listening to the Student Affairs One Thing, a podcast that asks a simple question of seasoned student affairs professionals. What is one thing you have learned that has helped shape your professional career? I've been your host, Stuart Brown, the founder of studentaffairs.com. one of the most accessed websites by student affairs professionals. I hope you will join us next time for another episode of the Student Affairs One Thing.